Hey everybody, welcome back to the video. In this one, we're going to be learning about encapsulation in JavaScript. So before going into the video, I would appreciate you guys liking and subscribing the video and feel free to comment. So let's go on topic. So basically, encapsulation is a way of binding or bundling data and methods into a single unit. And it's basically going to restrict the access from the outside of this thing. So basically the diagram you see is kind of an example. So basically that capsule is going to protect that property and methods inside it or whatever that thing is called. So that's kind of how it is. And whenever outside things are trying to access this, the capsule is basically going to protect them or bind them. So that's an example of how encapsulation works. So there are basically many ways. You can use classes, you can use functions, you can use hashtags, and you can use closures in many ways. But these are the top 3 ways I'll say. And probably closures is also one of them, but I'm just not going to include in this video because I just don't want you guys to stress a lot on them. So we're going to be learning that, I guess, on soon videos, on my future one. So let's see an example using classes. So first we have to create a class, user details, and then we're going to have these braces, and after this we can just have a name inside this or whatever you want. So I'm just going to have let's just say a method, and inside this method I'm just gonna return, or let's just do console.log. Actually, console.log, we're just gonna say John, and that's the name we want. And let's go ahead and do person equals user details. Of course we have to make a new instance. Let's do that, and there we go. So now what we can do is there we go. And now what we can do is person.name, and that should be good. So basically we're just creating a new instance of this and just doing this. So basically I'll just show you guys what is inherent encapsulation right here. So first of all, let's remove all this code so that we just don't mess those up. So let's go ahead and open with live server, and let's go to inspect, go to console, and there we go, John. That does work. And just don't care about this is not that one. So there we go, John, that works. So that's what we wanted, and that works. But where's encapsulation right here? It's not protecting anything outside this class and stuff. It's kind of protecting too, because you can it prevents you from direct access. So let's do console.log. What we can do is user details dot name. So if you might think it's just gonna get the whole thing, let's just return this then. Let's return, I guess you can keep the parentheses, but I'm just not gonna keep it. So just do that, and we're actually gonna create a new variable, name, and then let name equals, we're gonna put John. There we go. So now we have to spell this return correct, and that should be good. So I guess this thing works. So let's go ahead and go to that, and let's see. User details name is not a function because that's what we wanted, because it's not that's not what we wanted actually, because if we don't want any errors. But why did it give us an error? Because we are directly accessing it. Encapsulation basically protects from access from the outer variables and stuff, outer object components and stuff. So yeah, so this is basically a capsule to say. This whole thing is a capsule, and this is basically like an outer object component that's trying to access. But in the case where we create a new instance, we're kind of having a pass or something to access this and stuff. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. So now the another way is by using function. So let's delete that, and then we're gonna change this whole thing to function. There we go. And I'm just gonna have the same name in the methods because I really don't want to change those. Let's go do that. There we go. So now what we want to do is we already have a function, so we don't need those. So we're just gonna console.log, and what we can just do is John. There we go. So now that should do it. So let's go ahead and go to this, and John, that gives us, that works. So that's fine, but it's the same case for this too. You can do user details, and this still works too. User details, that still works. But where's encapsulation right here? And let's try to create, before saying where's encapsulation, let's try to create another function inside this function. We're gonna have user name, and this is where we're gonna just get our name here. Console.log and then we're gonna do John. And there we go. And let's also actually create a new variable saying John, so that we're just gonna access all these, and I'll show you guys what is encapsulation and stuff. So name, and of course I have to define this using let. There we go. So now that works, and actually let's define it with var. So actually never mind, I'm just gonna do let. So we have our everything done right here. So we have our username is declared, and yeah, so it does work. So let's go ahead and see. And since nothing is there, it's not working. So we can just do user details dot username. Let's do username. And there we go, user details dot username is not a function. So this is kind of an example of the closures and stuff. So yeah, so that's an example. But so basically in this example, the inner variable has an access to the outer variable, but the outer one doesn't have an access to the inner one. So that's an example of closures too. And here the encapsulation is basically whenever you have the function only you can access this, except without that you cannot. I know it kind of seems not that great than the classes, so yeah, we are mostly going to use classes for encapsulation. So let's get our class example. And now the last thing we just want to focus on is our hashtag. So let's go ahead and do hashtag name equals John. And of course they should be in a string. Do that, and there we go. So now I can only access this inside the class because this is a class scope. So let's go do that. Person, let's just do dot name, and I guess that should be good. John, that works. But if I just want to do something like this, console.log person dot, and if I want to access their name, which is hashtag name, it doesn't appear, which we already learned about abstraction video. So basically that does work. The outer variable or the outer components doesn't have an access to the inner or this capsule and stuff, the classes, and yeah, that works. But what is the difference between encapsulation and abstraction? Like, they both are pretty similar, and the major difference is the way we look about this. So I know the examples are pretty similar, and I'll say almost similar too, or fully similar. But yeah, they're almost similar. But the difference is basically this prevents an outer access and stuff. So even though you use class and then basically you use a normal one, that's still abstraction. Basically, you're just preventing these things to hide and stuff. You're basically hiding complex details and showing the necessary ones. So basically, if you have a lot of code and then you're just showing some important ones, that's still abstraction. But encapsulation is basically kind of like a safety, and abstraction sometimes depends on safety and sometimes also the user convenience. So yeah, I mean they have a lot of difference, but the examples are pretty similar, but still the definitions and everything what they're used for are pretty different, and you're gonna learn that soon, I guess. So yeah, that's it for today's video. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.